Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Bible in a Year 2021. We are on day 253. We're reading through Ezekiel 43, 44, and 45. So picking it up here in Ezekiel 43, and I'm sure that you're appreciating all the behind the scenes things that we are getting from Ezekiel, seeing things probably as none of the other prophets have shown to us. And so we find here, I just love this description, that he led me to the east gate where the glory of Israel's God was coming in from the east. Its sound was like the sound of a mighty flood, and the earth was lit up with his glory. That image of being lit up. A lot of the things that we read here in Ezekiel, we also find in Revelation, John's Revelation, and we see the connections. Just this image of the earth being lit up with his glory, and we're told in Revelation that there won't be a sun because Yahweh himself will be our light and our warmth. And then we have here in verses 5-7 this vision of eternity. A wind picked me up and brought me to the inner courtyard, and there the Lord's glory filled the temple. A man was standing next to me, but the voice that I heard came from inside the temple. He said to me, "Human one, this is the place for my throne and the place for the soles of my feet, where I will dwell among the Israelites forever. The house of Israel will never again defile my holy name, neither they nor their kings with their disloyalties and with their kings' corpses at the shrines." And we understand from John's Revelation that the old earth and the old heaven is going to pass away, and there'll be a new earth and new heaven, and it will be one place. And he sees the city of Jerusalem descend upon this new thing that the Lord is doing, and we understand that is for eternity, and so we will dwell with him. And remember that these scriptures are the Jewish scriptures, so they're from their perspective. But we have, lack of a better word, the Christian scriptures, the New Covenant scriptures that are given to us that line up with these scriptures, but include everybody as we see the church, and the Israel is part of the church. We are part of the church, and it's so all these things that we're reading here also include us. So in chapter 44 verses 1-2, the eastern gate is very significant because that's the Lord's return through the eastern gate. That's he enters into the city. Nobody else is allowed to use that eastern gate. It's very holy and significant and set aside. So we read here in verse 1-2, he brought me back to the outer sanctuary gate that faces east. It was closed. The Lord said to me, "This gate remains closed. It shouldn't be opened. No one should come in through it because the Lord, Israel's God, has entered through it. It will remain closed." And later we're going to be told that it's open on the Sabbath. But nobody else is allowed to come through because it's signifying the presence of the Lord. In verse 12-14, we see here the consequences of unfaithfulness. The Levites, the priests and the workers in the temple that were unfaithful to the Lord, and so because they ministered to them before their idols, they brought about the downfall of the house of Israel. So if the Levites had stood their ground against the idols, instead of going with a popular opinion, the popular thought, if they actually stood their ground, it may have prevented the fall. Isn't that interesting? So they brought about the downfall of the house of Israel. For that reason, I made a solemn pledge against them. This is what the Lord God says, and they will bear their guilt. They won't approach me to officiate for me as priests or approach any of my holy things or the most holy place. Though they bear their humiliation and the consequences of their detestable practices, I will appoint them to keep charge of the temple, all its works, and all that is done in it. Except for, we have this case here, the family of Zadok. the family of Zadok were the only priests that stood faithful, that didn't back down. And so we see here that they're being honored in verses 15 to 16. As for the priests of the Levitical family of Zadok, who did keep charge of my sanctuary when the Israelites strayed away from me, they will draw near to me to serve me. They will stand in my presence to present fat and blood to me. This is what the Lord God says. They will come into my sanctuary and they will approach my table to minister to me. They will keep my charge. Wow. Be faithful, people. Be faithful, no matter what. And then in chapter 45, we see here the holy portion of the land that is set aside. When you distribute the land as an inheritance, you will set aside a holy portion of land for the Lord. It will be 7.1 miles long and 5.68 miles wide. It will be holy throughout the entire area. So this land is like the Holy of Holies. It is all a holy land, but this portion definitely is set aside for the Lord's specific purposes. And then down in verses 9 to 12, we see a charge to the kings, and in a call for justice. The Lord proclaims, enough, princes of Israel. Turn aside from violence and oppression. Establish justice and righteousness. Cease your evictions of my people. This is what the Lord God says. You must use fair scales, a fair ephah, and a fair bath. The ephah and the bath must be the same size. Both should be calibrated to the homer. Each will contain 1/10 of a homer. The shekel must weigh 20 gerahs. 20 shekels, 25 shekels, and 15 shekels will equal 1 manna for you. Wow, very specific there. But this has to do with justice and the very preciseness of justice. And we need to grab hold of this, because we know that a huge part of the responsibility that has been given to us is in the way of justice, of mercy, of compassion, of looking after the widows, the immigrants, the orphans, and all the people who may be facing injustices. We are to fight for them and to serve them. And we can't let go of that, because that's so very important. Okay, so you guys be blessed today. Be encouraged. Keep pressing on. We're almost through the Old Testament here, and then we'll be moving on to the New Covenant scriptures. You guys have a blessed and wonderful day.